Security didn't ask questions. They just showed up. Can you escort this woman out? She's standing in the investor lobby, and she clearly doesn't belong. The receptionist's voice rang out across the marble floors of the corporate high-rise. Sharp, public, purposeful. The woman in question didn't say a word. She didn't have to. She was black, alone, professionally dressed, holding a sealed portfolio. Her presence quiet, composed, and still was mistaken for a threat. Nobody asked her name. Nobody asked why she was there. Meanwhile, a white man in a tailored suit strolled in behind her. No ID shown. No appointment questioned. He was greeted with a smile and waved through like royalty. Angela Mitchell wasn't lost. She had a confirmed appointment with the CEO, but that didn't matter because her skin walked into the room before her resume ever had a chance to speak. Behind the desk, they whispered about her outfit, giggled at her ambition, exchanged looks like she was a child who had wandered into an adults-only meeting. But they didn't know the truth. Not yet. They didn't know who was watching. And they definitely didn't know that the woman they just humiliated would be the reason their entire company would soon collapse from the inside. Angela didn't shout. She didn't threaten. She waited. And when the time came, she wouldn't demand justice. She would deliver it. Angela stepped through the glass doors of Weldon Strategies with the practiced calm of someone who had long learned not to expect respect but to command it, eventually. The lobby was gleaming and sterile, filled with curated greenery and polished stone meant to distract from the hollowness of its welcome. She walked to the reception desk, where two women sat in matching outfits, tapping away on keyboards, their acrylic nails chipping and clicking. One of them, a redhead with highlighter pink lipstick named Rebecca, barely looked up when Angela stopped at the counter. Yes, Rebecca muttered, voice flat. Angela smiled politely. Good morning. I have a 10 a.m. appointment with Mr. Fletcher, office 56C. Rebecca paused, a flicker of something crawling across her face at the mention of that name. Are you sure? She asked. Name? Angela Mitchell. Rebecca typed slowly, like each keystroke was personal effort. Behind her, a male intern in a navy button-up snorted quietly. Didn't know we were doing community outreach today, he muttered. Angela heard it, every word, but her face didn't shift. Her shoulders didn't slump. She had heard worse said with louder voices and more venom. She simply stood with her folder, unbothered, prepared. That big ass sight. You said Fletcher. As in Bryce Fletcher, our executive director. Angela nodded once. Rebecca scoffed. Do you have a confirmation email? She asked. Angela opened her tote and pulled out a printed letter on Weldon Strategies letterhead. The watermark shimmered faintly. Rebecca skimmed it like it was a counterfeit 20. Then, reluctantly, she buzzed the elevator. He'll be down shortly, she said. No, please have a seat. No, thank you. Just a blank stare. Angela turned and took a seat in the leather chairs by the window. Around her, professionals walked past in tailored blazers and slick shoes. Some stared. Most didn't. She opened her tablet and reviewed her file's federal integration proposals, economic models, impact maps, all laid out with clinical precision. Behind the desk, the intern snickered again. She seriously thinks she's pitching something, he said, not bothering to whisper this time. Looks like she took the subway 5 minutes ago. Angela didn't flinch. A man in a designer suit walked in minutes later. Rebecca sprang into customer service mode. Mr. Lindell, she chirped. Welcome back. I'm headed up to see Bryce, he said with a wink. Of course, she giggled, buzzing him through without checking anything. Angela watched the exchange like a scientist watching a predictable experiment. 10 minutes passed. Then 15. No one returned. No one called. She rose and approached the desk again. Excuse me, she said evenly. Has Mr. Fletcher been notified? Rebecca blinked as if startled. Right. Let me call up now. She pressed a button. Yes, hi. I have an Angela Mitchell here. Says she has a 10 o'clock with Mr. Fletcher. A pause. Then, okay. He'll be right down, she said, her tone bland. Angela sat back down. 25 minutes. Then 30. The elevator finally pinged. A tall man in his 50s with gray temples and expensive shoes stepped into the lobby. He scanned the room until his eyes found her. "Ms. Mitchell," he said, voice bright. "So sorry. They didn't tell me you'd arrived." Angela stood. "It's no trouble. I'm used to being overlooked." The receptionist froze. Bryce offered his hand. "Please, right this way." As the elevator doors closed behind them, Rebecca stared into nothing, realizing that the woman she had dismissed had just entered the CEO's private suite. Upstairs, Bryce led Angela through a corridor of glass walls and brushed steel. He apologized again. "I'm embarrassed," he said. "You should have been in our executive conference room 10 minutes ago." Angela smiled gently. First impressions are rarely about facts. They entered a side lounge while Bryce went to gather his team. Minutes later, a woman named Danielle appeared, her heels clacking against the tile. "Ms. Mitchell?" she asked. Angela stood. "I'll show you to the meeting room." But instead of taking her to the executive wing, Danielle led her down a different hallway, through an outdated door, into a tiny, dusty room with mismatched chairs. "This is where we do intake discussions," Danielle said. "We'll get started shortly." Angela sat and waited. 10 minutes. 20. No one came. Angela stood, picked up her portfolio, and left the room on her own. She followed the layout she had memorized the night before. She turned a corner, and there through the glass wall she saw the real conference room, full of executives. Bryce stood at the head of the table. Angela knocked once and entered. "Ms. Mitchell," Bryce said, clearly startled. "We were about to send someone." "Danielle brought me to a holding room on the wrong floor," Angela said. "I've been waiting for over 20 minutes. His smile vanished. "I'll handle it." Angela took her seat at the table, but it wasn't over. Moments later, Rebecca walked into the boardroom, breathless. "Excuse me," she said. "Security needs to confirm this guest's credentials. We had an irregularity." Angela stared at her. "An irregularity?" Rebecca swallowed. "Your name wasn't in the visitor system." Angela reached in her bag and pulled out the same letter she had shown Rebecca downstairs. "You already saw this," she said, laying it flat. "But I'll hold it up for everyone this time in case it's harder to believe when it's not digital." The room went quiet. Bryce stood. "Rebecca, she's my guest. You had no authority to do this." Rebecca stammered, then turned and left. Angela began her presentation. Her voice was calm. Her slides were immaculate. Halfway through, another woman, Danielle, entered and said, "There was a mix-up earlier." Angela didn't even glance at her. "Yes, mix-ups seem to be standard procedure here." She continued. "Diagrams, charts, grant approvals, ROI projections." Her voice never cracked. Her confidence never wavered. But the executives' reactions were slow, guarded. Gerald, the CFO, raised a hand. "Do you have an MBA, Ms. Mitchell?" "I have dual master's degrees in environmental systems and financial engineering from Carnegie Mellon," she replied. "Oh, not an MBA then." He smirked. Angela clicked to the next slide. Her numbers were flawless. Her projections vetted. Her government partners confirmed. But Gerald interrupted again. "I'm concerned about scale. Hundreds of millions is a lot to manage." Angela said, "That's why I'm here. This isn't a pitch. It's an invitation." Still, the room stayed stiff. Finally, the projector cut out. A staffer said, "Sorry, we need the room in 5 minutes." Angela looked at the clock. It was 11:22. "I was told I had until 11:30, she said. "Scheduling says otherwise," the staffer shrugged. "I just need 5 more minutes," Angela said. "No need," Gerald said, standing. "We've got the gist." Angela packed her things. "Don't take it personally," Gerald added. "Big tables aren't built for everyone." Angela said nothing, but her silence was louder than any rebuttal. She left the room, and they didn't know it yet, but she had just walked away with the key to their future. Downstairs, she waited in a smaller lounge. Beige walls. No coffee bar. No buzz. Her inbox buzzed. An auto-generated message. "Thank you for your interest in partnering with Weldon Strategies." At this time, Angela closed the screen. Later that afternoon, in the staff print room, An intern named Jacob found a packet in the printer tray. It was labeled GreenLink, Phase 3 Fiscal Model. He flipped through it. The data was staggering. He was about to log it when Danielle appeared. "What's that?" she asked. Jacob explained. Danielle took it, tore it in half, and dropped it in the shredder. "Trust me," she said. "This one's a non-starter." She walked out. Jacob stood there, stunned. Meanwhile, upstairs, Gerald emailed the board. Candidate does not meet threshold for execution. No mention of her data. No mention of her credentials. Just deleted. But Angela had already uploaded everything to a secured federal archive. And the next day, she returned. This time, not as an applicant, but as a liaison for the U.S. Department of Energy. She walked into the executive war room. Bryce stood. Angela laid a letter on the table. "As of this week," she said, "I am the strategic federal liaison for Greenscale. I now oversee all vendor evaluations and federal alignment recommendations." She turned to the board. "Your behavior yesterday disqualified you from Tier 1 federal access." Silence. One executive asked, "Is there any way to repair this?" "Maybe," Angela replied. "But the names currently on file are already red flagged." Then she turned to Bryce. "You assumed I came here to ask. You never considered I might be holding the scorecard." And just like that, Weldon Strategies fell from the top of the federal shortlist. Not because of performance, because of prejudice. Months later, Angela stood at the front of a training room. Danielle sat in the audience. Angela didn't speak of revenge. She spoke of bias. "Bias isn't always hate," she said. "Sometimes it's just assumptions we never examine." At the end of her lecture, Danielle approached. "I was wrong about you," she said. "I was wrong about everything." Angela replied. "You were wrong about who I was. But maybe you're starting to be right about who you can be." Outside, Angela walked past the same front desk where she had once been dismissed. Heather, the receptionist, stood. "I remember how I treated you," she said. "You had every right to burn this place down. But you didn't. You taught us instead." Angela smiled. People learn best when they're forced to face themselves. Then she walked away, her silence no longer mistaken for weakness, but recognized finally for what it truly was. Power. Dignified, unshaken, and unforgettable.